fixing to be fired. That was the worst budget I've ever saw. I've read every budget in Smith County ever since I've been here, and this one certainly is the best one. I think y'all deserve it, and I'm going to repeat the words that came good. I do trust every one of you. And there's nothing, if any one of you called me any times of the day or night and asked me to come help you, I would do it. And I think y'all know that. I hope y'all know that. If you don't, you do now. And that's for every single one of you. Commissioner Fleming's my commissioner. She's never not returned a phone call, never not returned an email. She's always there. I've known every one of you for a long time. Bobby with the PD forever, Joel, DA's office, our first lawyer and as long as I've been here, Bill, 20 years. Commissioner Hampton, City of Tyler, which nobody says anything bad about the City of Tyler, and certainly they've done a great job, and she has certainly brought those principles and tried to apply them the best you can here at Smith County, even though we have an unusual way of doing business because of the laws we're governed thereby. I appreciate all y'all. I hope y'all do the right thing. I support the raises for everybody. I think the budget's a good thing. Certainly you're not going to please everybody on every issue every single time. It has never happened here in Smith County. But y'all are elected to make some tough decisions, and I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buffington. I have no more forms. Do you have any more forms for him, Chief? Okay. All right. Move to the agenda workshop session. Ms. Wilson, could you update the members of the audience who are present?
Judge, what would you like to know? Would you like to see the overhead or abbreviated version?
Well,
if
you could just give a summary of the changes that were made today regarding the items that are on the budget, on the TCDRS plan provisions and some of those things, and then update the changes to the proposed budget.
In an earlier session today, the court voted to give a 3% cost of living increase to the retirees of Smith County. It's the first cost of living increase that's ever been awarded to retirees of Smith County. That's through the Texas County and District Retirement System. So with the vote of the court, that goes into effect January 1 of 2008. That's been added to the proposed budget for next year. The county actually funds that as part of our contribution rate into the retirement system. The maximum impact to the budget will be about $80,000. Again, that's the worst case scenario because that's based on total payroll, and we don't spend total payroll normally. The court also voted today to add a secretary into the County Court at Law Warrants Division to assist the officers in doing some of the groundwork prior to them going out and serving the warrants that they do for the county courts at law. The discussion was had about the 911 dispatch service, that 911 actually does the dispatch for the county and all of the cities, and the court has agreed to put some money back in to assist the cities for a period not to exceed 3 years in their implementation of paying their own dispatch services in the future. Also, there's some legislation that was passed in this last legislative year that increases the justice of the peace courts from $5,000 to $10,000, and the justices of the peace were concerned that their workload would be more than could be handled by the present staffing levels. So the court has decided to restore one full-time clerk into the Justice of the Peace Precinct 1, one that was eliminated a few years back when some positions were cut. Also to add part-time help for the other 4 remaining justices of the peace. In addition to that, some conversation was had about the constables, the deputy constables in Precinct 1. These constables are in personal vehicles. They do not have county-owned vehicles, so whether or not to give them travel allowances or would it be best suited that they fill out mileage logs and get reimbursed for their travel that way. It was decided that it was more accountable if these deputy constables would submit their mileage on a travel log to be reimbursed rather than getting just an allowance on top of their payroll check. After the Council of Judges meeting today, it was discussed the need to add an appellate contract attorney for indigent defense. One of the areas of this budget that's really focusing on this year in this present budget is following the recommendation of CGL, Carter Goble Lee, which the county had hired to study the judicial process. And one of the recommendations of CGL was that we actually aid the judicial system in pushing these cases through the courts as fast as we could in order to keep them from staying in the jail. So a lot of emphasis has been placed on this year's budget into actually providing the resources necessary to do that. There's been a couple of district attorney positions added into the budget to assist that office in the backlog that they currently have. So along that line, the court has agreed to add an appellate contract attorney for the indigent defense side, that the county has to also provide indigent defense based on a Senate Bill 7, 5 or 6 years ago that was passed that pushed that on the county's shoulders. Another area that was talked about, the county decided to up the allocation from the Workforce Investment Fund. There's $50,000 that was sitting out there. This is special revenue money, designated money that's supposed to, is designed to move into the next phase of the compensation study, where the compensation committee will get back together and add ranges into the salary compensation plan. And not only add ranges, want to implement an incentive bonus pay merit-based system. So the funds were set aside for this committee to get back and formulate those guidelines that can be presented during the year and actually awarded during the year. So those were the major changes to the proposed budget. In addition to that, I had actually revised the revenues one last time, before we adopt the budget, and had added a couple of $100,000 more in the fines and fees area. After analyzing those again, they were adjusted upward. A few other changes, some of them mostly housekeeping, were made. The net effect to the proposed budget, with the changes that were agreed upon today and the changes that have been made to the proposed budget, is it's actually a little bit stronger than it was at the proposed level. And as I said earlier today, I've been here 7 years, and in my 7 years, this is the strongest budget this county has had since I've been here. It not only addresses a lagging fund balance, because we have had a lagging fund balance. There have been years in the past where we didn't know if we could make payroll, because when we're late, particularly we depend on tax money to come in. Tax money generally doesn't start coming in until January. So come December, we were really just robbing Peter to pay Paul, and that's not a position that this county needs to be in. There's too many other things that command our attention, so we absolutely have to up the fund balance in order to get us through these tough times. So we're going in the right direction to build those reserves up a little bit to offset some of these tough times, and that's a good thing. Not only is the fund balance coming up a little bit, there's actually more action coming out of this budget than I've seen in the past. There's more things happening. There's, like I said, there's a lot of attention focusing on the movement through the judicial process, getting people through the jail faster, addressing the facilities. There's still some capital improvements to be done in the next year. And I encourage anyone out there, because I heard a couple people say that they haven't heard this, that they don't know this. The proposed budget is on the website. In the proposed budget, if you'll actually read the documentation all the way through, I try very hard to explain exactly what the court is thinking and why these decisions are being made. And when the adopted budget comes out, it's even actually has more information included in it, and that is the whole point of preparing the budget in this manner, and according to the Government Finance Officers Association standards, so you, the public, can understand this document and understand that the decisions that are being contained within and the decisions that led to the funding in this document. So I encourage anyone, if you haven't read it, to read it. If you don't have, if you're not able to get it on the website, give either any commissioner, the judge, or myself a call. Be glad to get it to you in print.
Ms. Wilson, would you also address the salary plan, because there's been mention made of tonight about the percentages, and it's my understanding that those percentages are across the board up to 79%.
That is correct. I've heard some comment about the commissioners giving themselves raises larger than that of the employees, and that's not the case. There's some